So you gotta give it to Gundam, man. They always know how to surprise you. And I think what's truly brilliant about this and why it's gonna be such an interesting show to follow is you're probably gonna have the only time this will happen. Two sides of the Gundam fandom merge into one. Because what you had with episode 2 of the old Gundam Quacks, some people hate that I call it like that. Everyone else is like, hey, we're gonna call it that because it's a funny name. You essentially are having like a retelling and an alternate version of the original Gundam story, right? With Char and everything like that. But of course, if you look at episode 1, brand new characters, that modern look to Gundam that we've seen, it started to change in Iron-Blooded Orphans, really changed in Witch from Mercury. At the end of the day, though, Gundam has evolved quite a lot from where it used to look in the 80s and 90s. And there's always been a divide in the Gundam fandom, but this is probably the first time where both sides are going to get something out of it. You're going to have those who are newer to Gundam, like myself, who like the look and the feel of the modern stories, but maybe have also dabbled in some of the older ones too, and are going to be like, oh, I do like how the old stuff looked and felt, from what I've seen anyway, but yeah, I also really like how they've done it in the modern day. And then there's those who are just like, I want it to go back to how it was. Well, episodes like these are definitely going to be for the old fans, for sure. I mean, not only are you going to see probably so many references and new twists on what you think you know, but also the fact that they're blending it into this new tale. I really think Gundam is probably going to be the only time we'll be able to say this, in some time anyway, that both new and old fans alike are going to get something out of this show. And I mentioned it in my episode 1 video where I talked about how, like, when we were focusing on anything in space, it felt like old school Gundam. But then when we were on their planet, it felt like that new twist on the art and aesthetic, right? I mean, look at this episode. If you're not watching this feeling like you're watching one of the Gundam movies from the 80s, you're kidding yourself. Like, it literally looks like that, just remastered and upscaled, and it was beautiful. But I think, yeah, we're actually going to blend the two sides of the Gundam fandom pretty well with this show. But hey, what do I know? Maybe because they'll try to do two different things, it won't stick the landing for some. But I think this is going to be the best modern Gundam for sure. Of course, if you want to see my full thoughts on these episodes, support my work, we do got the Patreon, full look at live reactions over there exclusively. So I'm going to assume, could be completely off, knowing that this was a movie to begin with, like not that the whole story was a movie, but they did do a movie before the TV show. I'm going to assume episode 2 was probably at the beginning of the movie. Like, I feel like my gut impression is that the movie did the flashback with Char and everything like that, and then midway through the movie is when we got the episode 1 stuff with our new characters. That's my gut impression, because the way it was just so like, oh, this feels like this probably would have came before, unless they're planning to go every other, but no, like, they can't, right? I mean, by the end of this episode, Char has disappeared, and they're like, oh, when's the Red Gundam gonna pop back? And it's like, well, episode 1. Like, we already kind of know that. It's interesting, though, because I think this will be the type of episode that the more Gundam knowledge you have, the more you will enjoy. That's crystal clear. The thing, though, is that, you can't expect people to watch everything in Gundam to watch the next one. Because while, yes, you're going to catch more references and lore, at the end of the day, these stories are still designed that even if you haven't seen even like the OG Gundam story, you're still going to be able to enjoy this, as seen by that it's not just dedicated only on the Char storytelling and everything like that. We have brand new characters. It's kind of like how in a lot of video games, like this one to me feels like a lot of video games where it's like, yes, if you play the first one, you're going to have more enjoyment and experience, but they also keep in mind new fans that maybe haven't played a 4-year-old game. Like, that's kind of how it feels. So I think, as I always say, and I told people in my comments last week that yes, you can start here. You can start anywhere in Gundam. But yeah, when you go back, you're probably going to have even more enjoyment. This episode was insane though, because I thought episode 1 looked good. This one knocked it out of the park even more. The thing that really caught me by surprise though was the sound design right away. The intro minute-ish of the episode, especially if you watch with headphones, just dead silence, right? You can't hear anything other than like the breathing in the cockpit, and then like they enter like the space where like they would put in air and shit, and like a piece of metal just like clacks on the door and it bounces off the reverberation. I'm just like, why is the sound design this good? Like, sound design's been good in Gundam, but I feel like most of the time when we compliment the production of a Gundam show, we're talking about the obvious, did that laser blast look that good? Did they just explode a bitch that well? But the sound design deserves equal credit. And if I'm not mistaken, they have a new voice for Char, right? I liked it myself. Accidentally watched like the first 3 minutes of this episode with the Spanish dub because Prime was just like, hey, we're gonna default to Spanish. I was like, wait a second, these accents don't feel like they fit these characters. But no, like the Japanese cast, I'm enjoying all of them, and I'm really interested how the story structure will look because, well, I could, go online and find the movie, I'm sure. I want to experience this in a weekly format. The thing is I'm interested what they're truly going to plan with the new characters and the modern style and how it's going to conflict with and kind of contrast and go against, what you expect a Gundam story, especially with a character like Char, would go for in this type of series, right? But I really enjoyed it. It's not what you expect, and I feel like had you started with this episode as your episode 1, I don't think it would have worked for TV audiences that well, and I think that's probably why they structured it with episode 1 being episode 1 and episode 2 being here, because you do have to show the new fans who may not have as much experience that, hey, like, here's your new characters, this is going to be all new information, blah, blah, blah. Here's this flashback, which you can still enjoy, but at the same time, it shows you, okay, we do know we're cutting back to these other characters who you already have a little more understanding of, right? And I think for those who have a deep understanding of the Gundam lore, yeah, you're gonna eat this one up and say, did they just say that? Did they do that pose? Oh my god, this Easter egg, right? There's gonna be even more for you. And I think it just strikes this nice balance of new meets old in a way that we haven't really seen Gundam do before because, when you get Iron-Blooded Orphans, when you get Witch from Mercury, all you hear is like, I miss it when it was like this, or back in my day, it was like this. And then you hear on the modern side, like, we don't like how old Gundam looked, right? There's always been this divide in the fandom, even though Gundam has actually gotten more popular with shows like Witch from Mercury, like the fan base for those shows are insanely large. I do like that they're trying something to do that old meets new, and while I do expect most of the show is probably going to be focused on our new characters, I ain't gonna be surprised when we get more flashbacks with Char and characters like that. I think it's gonna be very, very enjoyable. I liked episode 2 a lot. I think this will get the Gundam fandom going like crazy just because of, characters that they're gonna be like, oh my freaking god. Especially if they didn't watch the movie. I mean, if they knew of the movie, they knew what was coming, of course. But yeah, great episode. What did you think? Let me know down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Shut Your Trap, Frank the Bank, Rayrar, Fred A, Simon175, and we also have Ale, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You have a good one.